Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Power of Eight discussion. Today we're on Lesson 11, which is this book, Hugging Strangers. So we're going to talk a little bit about this, and then we're going to share what has been happening with us over the last week, some more up-to-date news on what we're feeling with the energies that are coming in for the week. So hugging strangers, my favorite part was is on page 103, where it talks about what the participants felt during the experiment, and they just as they were giving healing intentions, and they described themselves being more generous towards themselves, as well as more loving, less critical, more satisfied with life, calmer and more grounded and even tempered, more empowered and connected with circumstances, a greater clarity of purpose of the heart. And Pollyanna, the co-host here, what did you think of this chapter, and what stood out to you the most?
Well, thank you for that. What stood out for me the most was that the surprise that people felt about having been the senders of positive healing intentions to the person in the group in the peace experiments and the Power of Eight circles, and then the unexpected surprise of all these wonderful benefits that you just started sharing, right? That's what's, and this chapter is just loaded. It's we were sharing before, it's a short chapter, and it's just incredibly loaded with all kinds of fascinating testimonials, like just loads and loads of them. And what caught my attention, just because you've highlighted so many of them so beautifully, is that when she kind of stood back from all of them, she noticed that this there was this greater good at play here about mystical ecstasy she talked about, and how Abraham Maslow wrote, "This is the way the world looks if the mystic experience really takes. If you've gone through this experience, you can be more in the here and now than with all the spiritual exercises that there are. So this basically a transcendent experience is psychologically good for you." And I love that point, and how people who experience mystical states have far higher levels of psychological health and enjoy improved relationships, improved health, and a deeper meaning and purpose in life. So really, I mean, what sometimes people misunderstand, I think, from a certain perspective as being woo-woo, what she's underscoring with these very scientifically based experiments is the expansive well-being and sense of wellness that mystical experiences have. So for so long, there's been this separation between, the material world and the spiritual world. And now it's like, we're moving back into this place of reunion, right? Between the two. So that's what I love about this chapter, is that's what caught my attention, is not only the testimonials, also the mystical experience, how because it can be so easy, I think, for sometimes people to minimize it, with perhaps if they haven't experienced it, and yet it's so profound.
It is very profound. And we're in the times, speaking from my point of view, where you can live in both. You can live in both the mystical experiences as well as here in the physical world as well. And it's fun and interesting and exciting to see what will be coming into the physical world, because I always see things in the energetic world first, and then it appears in the physical world. And now we're at the time where that can happen very, very rapidly. One of the things to go along with what you said was here in the book too, that I was looking at, where I just had it. She was talking about there seemed to be some sort of individual expansion of consciousness for the participants who were sending healing energies. And from my experience as a healer, because we're constantly sending healing energies when people are in our healing room, you can rapidly expand that way too. So it's a win-win for both the healer and the client coming in for the healing, because those energies are healing to both.
Yes, that's really a key piece of it, that it is a collaboration in the sense of not my will, or I'm willing you to be better, but in a different sort of lens through which to see that collaboration. It's being that pure channel, vessel, through which that divine source energy, whatever you call it, universe, spirit, we have different names for it, can flow, and be received by the person receiving the healing. And yet both are transformed into something more because of it, right?
Right.
And
yeah.
that's one of the, I think, bringing it into, like you were saying, like, how does this relate to our times that we're in right now? And this has been a discernment on my own journey from doing, Reiki, doing healing sessions over the years, working with clients, is that if I feel a sense of expansion, if I feel a sense of just, sometimes it's, when I say energy, it's not necessarily like energized. It's like, because I think sometimes when I say energized, it might lead people to think I'm ready to jump up and down and do jumping jacks. Sometimes it's energized in the sense of feeling calm, right? Or some other way. But just, I think expanded kind of covers it, because I feel like there's enhanced even with this simple, and going in with a simple intention of just being open and being neutral and being there to serve and to get out of the way so that it can happen, to just be hold the space for that to transpire. And that experience is what is the yes, I've gotten out of my own way, is when it has that expansive feeling to it. So the beautiful thing, it's kind of almost paradoxical, it would seem, to the programming a lot of us have experienced in the more 3D world, 3D material world. And it's sort of an unwinding of that actually less is more. When we can hold space and presence and open and surrender to this greater good, this greater field of potentiality and possibilities, then it's not about working harder or trying to make something happen or force an end or will something to happen. It actually invites more ease and expansion in for both parties. And I feel like in this world right now, with there are a lot of people out there who are awakening to this, and at the same time, we're unwinding the old past programs around struggle and around, how this all actually supports us to create, to innovate, to, see beyond the limitations of what is outpicturing sometimes in front of us.
Yeah, I think it helps us move forward with the good that we're doing here, with our services, with our jobs, with whatever we choose to do as a service to the world, and that can look like many different things, right?
Right.
But I think we're so supported in that way. Also, just holding the space, getting out of the way, allowing the energy to flow in the healing room, and in this case, the power of 8, allowing that intentions to flow to the recipient. I feel like the more you can get out of the way, the more you can do that, the more that you hold that space in gratitude and appreciation that you are there and you can do that. I feel like the more spiritual gifts that are given as well.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
That you receive more spiritual gifts in that way.
That's so true. That's so true. So it's that capacity to be in that receptive mode, to receive on behalf of the person you're sending the energy to. And in so doing, the universe has enough for everyone, right? It's this trust and in the abundance that is present in the moment. And like you said, the gratitude for it and the appreciation. And right now too, I just feel like for a lot of us in this, I don't know what you've been picking up on right now, but the power of choice, of really paying attention to, are we focusing on what we want to create? Are we focusing on what we're grateful for? Are we focusing on the blessings in our life? Where is our mind sort of being drawn to? Where are our emotions being called to? You know, how is our body feeling? Are we feeling more inspired, you know, as a result of those choices? I think that's something that's so key right now. And tomorrow too, we're in a very important gateway moment with the Lion's Gate, which is historically all about that, being able to maintain a high frequency so that all the gifts, that the abundance that is available for us, that is our cosmic birthright, that we're remembering and removing sort of any veils that would, you know, dissolving any veils that would prevent us from seeing. This is part of like the Earth game, why we came here, was to, you know, forget and then remember again.
I always say it feels like this is our cosmic playground here, and because it can be that fun. You were talking about, you know, really paying attention to gratitude, and that I do that in the morning. I like do the gratitude, and to me that's like an activation process. Like these are the thoughts I'm going to pay attention to today, and this is what I'm activating today for my awareness and my energy field. And it's amazing how those good things come in, right? Because there's a lot of things for me, it's like, I want to be a good wife. I want to be a good mother. I want to have good service that I provide to people. So all of these small things and large things, activating those each day. So that's what we see. I think it's also interesting in this chapter that reminds me, one of the things that one of the participants said is that people who annoyed them before the experiment, this is a quote, seem to be appearing less often in their lives. So to me, they were paying attention to me. Whenever I read that, I think, oh, well, they're just paying more attention to the good that they want. And then some of the other things that don't feel right for your life, they just kind of fall away on their own. And that's what I was reading into this on this one sentence that I highlighted.
Yeah, I can definitely relate to that too in my own life, right? Is when things neutralize, right? When you're something that in the past might have been had a bit of a ping or an edge or even a trigger, and it no longer has that. It no longer has any emotional Velcro, and you're able just to sort of say, oh, okay, smile it, or it just feels, you're able to just, you might notice it, but what starts to happen, it's true, is that you don't notice it as much anymore. It falls away. And I think at first there's that transition where you notice that you're being with it in a different way. And then it's like the learning is complete, the lesson is complete, and it just dissolves. It really is interesting how a lot of what we see out there is really, to a large, you know, people talk about it being like a projection, like a movie theater, right? You know, that we're casting ourselves, you know, in our own movie, right? And sometimes we cast ourselves in very interesting roles, you know, and wonder why we're not enjoying watching the movie. And or I like when you talked about the cosmic playground, a sort of cosmic hide and go seek, you know, like here I am now, I'm over here. No, I'm over here. I'm wearing this hat now, you know, trying on like all these different costumes, right? And I think part of that cosmic playground is through sort of, to a large degree in the beginning, as we're awakening, trial and error of, oh, this feels better, this doesn't feel as good. And it's oftentimes, it's initially for a lot of people, it doesn't have to be this, but initially I think It's almost like a rite of passage for us as human beings. It's the pain when it gets to a point where that we ask for a higher power, a higher something larger than ourselves to intervene. And whether that's attending, a Reiki session or learning a healing art to do healing on ourselves or a combination thereof, it's that is the beginning of realizing that, trying to I have a funny story to share. This just popped back into my mind. It's kind of random, but it's very quick. When I was I think it was grade 1. I loved the movie The Wizard of Oz. I would beg and plead to stay up to watch it. Sometimes it came on after my bedtime, and it was just like, oh no. And I was so enamored with The Wizard of Oz that I got a group of friends together in the playground, and we were going to reenact it. And and I don't know where I got that bravado when I guess, like a lot of kids are like that, because part of me was kind of shy at that time. But when it came to something like that, and I felt it in my heart, I just went all in and I didn't worry about anything. But it was so piecemeal. And and I remember, I don't even know where I got the confidence at that moment, at that age, to say to the grade 1 teacher, but we need a piano. We need someone to play. And it was just she humored me. I don't know this is, maybe my memory is disjointed a bit. I don't know, but I just have this memory of saying we need a piano, and there was no one to play the piano. And I had asked people who wanted to be in my play, but we didn't know the lines yet. And we went down, and the whole play consisted of me whispering in each person's ear, you need to say this now, and then you need to say that now. And it was just like the ultimate micromanaging situation. And I just have to smile at that 6-year-old self that really loved that play so much. And I feel like it is kind of a humorous anecdote and metaphor for sometimes, in life, that tendency to want to, force a fit. And the beautiful thing about her work and the experiment she's been doing is a lot of it has been about the power of that intention, and then the trust and the surrender and letting it go. And then the bonuses on top of, you think you're showing up, to support somebody else in their healing journey, and because of how you're choosing to show up for somebody else, you can only do that and also be showing up in the same way for yourself. So it almost like it helps people to flip the switch on that through, because a lot of us have, been raised with beliefs around it's better to give than to receive. So we start off in the giving. But the beautiful thing about giving from that frequency is that those old beliefs just fall away. Giving and receiving is that flow of abundance, and it's indistinguishable ultimately, because when you're that clear channel, it doesn't have to be either or. It can be it can be simultaneous.
I like that. You were describing earlier that, whenever you ask for help from the divine power, you ask for help. And I think that was one of my first mystical experiences, whenever I was in that state of just help, before I knew anything about energy healing or any sort of mystical things. I just had that experience. And it was a time when I was feeling very unfulfilled in what I was doing in the corporate world. And I know people have other reasons why they would, probably more dire reasons why they would reach out for help. But that was, at my time, that was what it was. Like, what am I supposed to be doing with my life right now? Like, this is not fulfilling. And that's whenever I had a mystical experience. It's like, you ask, and if you really ask from a sincere heart, like, you have so much support to help you, And it was like, just like someone swooped down and my vibrations increased. And now, after I've learned about energy healing and studied this more and really stepped into who we really are as divine people, now there's mystical experiences all the time. And it's wonderful. Yeah. It's wonderful. But that was one of the first things in the book here in this chapter, Hugging Strangers. one of the ladies had been working day and night. And then after she had this mystical experience with this Power of 8 healing intention group, just sending healing energy, she said, the quote here, never again would she allow herself to be working night and day as she had done the previous week. And that really hit home with me because that's all I did was work night and day at my job until I started having mystical experiences and realizing, wow, there's so much more to life.
Oh yes.
This is what I'm going to explore.
Well, sure. And the key is it's a mystical experience, right? Because this is where the mind of form can sometimes run interference in between, right? Like I've noticed in my own journey, because it's true, certain professions too can be very, demanding in terms of schedules and long hours, and it's, and it's sort of, it can get us onto a track. I know this even from being in teaching too, that, it's very scheduled, and having the sort of the spaciousness. I feel like a lot of mystical experiences emerge when we create spaciousness within ourselves and within our schedule to value mystical experiences. And I feel like sometimes, like you shared it, just that asking was the activator, the initiation. And then once you had a taste of it, you're like, oh, because, and the times where, even recently I did a soul journey ritual for myself, and I went even deeper into the practice of doing that, and it just reactivated something in me on a deeper level, that when you shared that quote from the book, it pinged something for me, hearing you reading it out loud, right? And it was, it's like when that saying, once you open the curtains, you can't close well, you could close the curtains, but conscious wise, like once you become aware of something, you can't become unaware of it again. You can pretend, but you can't really. And so it's like this feeling of that value of creating space for the mystical to move us and to inform us and to guide us is something that is just so richly benefit. Those are the inner riches. It's beneficial, and those are the inner riches. I think the more people who can experience that, and also the unity consciousness that creates, like when you were sharing some of those quotes about how people were no longer they were more accepting of people that they normally disliked or didn't get along with, or they were more open to being kind to strangers. This is how we begin to heal the world, right? This is, and even it was mentioned in one of, I think, the testimonials or quotes too, about how the world had become polarized at the time when this book was written. And I mean, so what is the antidote to that? What is the healing balm for that? It's mystical experiences. So being like a modern mystic, in in the boardroom or in your family, or, wherever you, in the grocery store, it just, it's in us, in all of us. It's just, being aware that it's there.
Creating the space. And I think creating the space, I was thinking about this yesterday. It's really creating the space in our mind, because you have to just, the meditations or quieting the mind, or however people live in the present and the now, that's making space for these things to happen. And this week has been fantastic with mystical experiences. And I think it's the energy that's coming in, getting ready for the 8/8 Lionsgate. I never really followed astrology or any of these 8/8 Lionsgate or portals or anything before. But I do pay attention now whenever they come about to see what I'm doing. I journal every day. But for me, on 8/3, so that would have been 4 days ago, there were a lot of activations that floated in. And for me, this was, and I think we all experience them a little bit differently. but it was a lot of pink energy, and I think that's the feminine energy. It was geometric shapes, pink energy, over and over and over. And I was just receive, relax, kept receiving, and it increases the frequency in your body, the geometric shapes, and it was pink, and it was for about 30 minutes. And at the very end, it turned to green. So I don't know what the green means, other than green kind of symbolizes love to me. The energy of green symbolizes love, like your, heart chakra, some of the archangels. So yeah, but the green was only for a couple minutes, pink for about 30 minutes, green for a couple minutes. So that was the activation for me about 4 days ago. Have you noticed anything over the past week?
Yes. For me, it's been more in the form of, there's been a lot of purging, sort of since the full moon. And it's come in bursts and spurts. And there's been like an opening happening inside of me that has been very profound. It's been that, I'm trying to think of a very concise way to sort of sum it up. I guess it's like a dissolving of layers. So it's been an ongoing process. And one of the things that came through for me too, and I was actually having a conversation this morning with another friend of mine who's an NLP practitioner and healer and beautiful soul, and just talking about emotional intelligence and emotional wellness. That was the piece, because and I feel like this is an important, I just feel guided to share this right now, that, this is a bit of my medical intuitive training coming through too, about when we crying is something that's a whole complex, that's a whole show unto itself, right? But how purifying tears are for the emotional body and for the light body. And when we don't allow tears to move through us, it's not necessarily needing to understand or analyze why we're crying with the head, because that can just kind of keep us in a downward spiral. But it's just allowing the energy to flow like water, like you don't want to have a stagnant pond. And it's emotion, tears. It's almost like, I'm going to go out on a limb here, but this came through this morning about, it's healthy to cry. It's healthy to, I think, just the way we talk about laughing or being in gratitude, I think we're here to acknowledge our multidimensional presence. And the key is to witness the tears, not identify with the tears. Just the way we laugh, just the way we sneeze, just the way, all these things. We have a body, we have emotions, we have thoughts. Because on the other side of that was like a lightness of being, was like a clarity came through too. It was that resurrection energy of like the tears bathing back, like a baptism almost. Those parts of me that wanted to emerge, that wanted to be cleansed, that wanted to be purified. And so seeing crying is not pathologizing it. That's what I was talking about with the medical intuitive training, that there's a tendency to if someone's crying, because there's so much awareness about mental health, to automatically jump to, oh, this person's having a difficult time and it's a mental health issue. I think because we're so open and talking about that right now, which is wonderful, we have to also be mindful and careful about that. I think crying is as healthy and as normal as laughing or as anything else. And the key, though, in my own journey so far and where I've gotten to at this point, is the discernment that those tears are a process of having this human experience, but they are not me, and that I can have compassion for them. And it was interesting because I came across and I can't remember, I've got to go back and check, and I keep meaning to, and I haven't gotten back there yet. The root word, the original meaning of the word perfection, right? perfection actually means compassion. So when they talk about divine perfection, I used to get hung up on that a little bit, because I would think, well, if I'm crying, then, I'm too attached to my emotional body, and then the judgment would come in and I get all wonky, and so then that would kind of some interference energy. Now it's like what I've been noticing, the activation has been it's not that I haven't cried before in my past, but it was just like I was exercising one moment and then the tears just flowed, and I gave them permission, and I didn't try to understand them, pin them down, figure them out. I just saw it as energy moving through me, and I honored them. And what emerged out of there was a clarity, a vulnerability, a sincerity, a love, a presence. And then what unfolded from there in my day was nothing short of miraculous, because it was being present to all of it, and not siloing it, not putting it in different containers and saying, it was unifying it. It was bringing all the energy from, like you have wind, you have rain, you have fire, all these things, and recognizing that they all are part of our inner ecosystem. They're all part of our inner way of being in the world, and just to be with them and their forces. And so that was what was sort of bubbling up and awakening in me. And it was really, really powerful. And it really shifted relationships, communication patterns and styles with myself and with others. And I'm just open and curious to see what else is going to emerge through it. So.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen that happen in healing sessions as well. And even for me, because I work with a lot of healers also, where we trade services, where sometimes there's not even emotion attached to it. It's just like tears are just streaming down. It's really, there's no emotion for it. It's just happening.
Yeah.
And it's just like energy moving. It's the energy moving, some cleansing that's happening. So yeah, I can relate to that for sure.
And I guess I just felt kind of guided to share that too, because I feel like mystical experiences, as you mentioned earlier, this is just something that's coming through now, can happen in any moment and in any way. I used to think mystical experiences when I, was much younger were, something for monks or nuns, in a very sacred kind of space. I feel like it's just like a lot of things. It's the way we show up for things that restore the sacred to things or open us to the mystical. I mean, you could be gardening in the backyard and have a mystical experience where all of a sudden the plants are speaking to you, and I've had that before. Even I had an experience years ago with a little iguana here, where I was walking along the sidewalk and there was this one iguana standing there, and I just took a moment to just send love to the iguana and stay in my heart connection and really feel the love in my heart for the iguana and connect to the iguana's heart. And I got closer and closer to, the reptilian brains, but as soon as I broke for even a flicker of a second, that heart connection, then the reptilian brain kicked in and he fled. But it was amazing how close we could get to each other when I stayed in my heart. And I also visualized, the iguana's heart and feeling the oneness. And then it was really fascinating. I'll never forget that. So we can have mystical experiences anywhere. You can have them in the laundromat. You can have them, in the grocery store checkout line, right? It's the experience itself and how we show up for it.
Yeah, I would say to me, my mystical experiences would be what you see physically, but also on the energetic realm as well, because there's so much that happens there that's very beautiful and magical. And being open to that, it can be really, really fun. Yeah, there was something. Oh, the heart. You were talking about the heart connection, and I just wanted to mention, and when people do their gratitude in the morning, and they want to start having a connection and getting answers back, it's just starting with just a simple question. And, every morning, if you do this every morning and you ask the simple question, you meditate, ask the simple question, whatever it may be, or it could just be as simple as, is this the right decision for me? You might get just a yes or no at first, But the more you practice it, the more you'll get really clearly defined answers. And you're just guided. You got to open up the space for it. And I view it as opening up your mind space, your brain space, just allowing that. And then also opening up your heart to that. And you can connect fairly easy if you have the desire to.
Yeah. And it requires patience, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Because in our fast-paced world, we're so used to, we're sort of almost can become entrained to faster, faster, faster. And then every single moment, everything is like so tightly packed together. And when we can stretch out the time frame and just, like you said, ask the question. And I like how you mentioned that first time you ask, you might get a yes or no answer. And then over time, so it's that it is a process too. It's a process, and it's a commitment to a process of practicing.
Yeah, I was looking through my journal because I was going to talk about what happened this week. And that was one thing that happened was I was in a situation with a project that I'm working on. And I wasn't, sometimes our brains go, well, we should keep going with it because we don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, but, so go back and forth. So I just it took about 10-minute deep meditation, quieted the mind and asked the question, is this project right for me? And it's amazing now because you get the words back to you, like in an explanation too, like, well, this could have been done differently. And this is, and so you just know, like they always say, you have all the answers. You don't have to seek on the outside. You have all the answers. And with that connection, you can. And the more you trust yourself, the more you can guide your own life and not have to rely on other people's opinions, because that's what they are. It's just other people's opinions. Although I'm not saying that you shouldn't talk with people, because sometimes you can get a different perspective. But if you can connect, you do have all, we have all the answers for our lives.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so key. It's the listening, like you mentioned earlier in our conversation. The key is the listening and priming the space for that listening. So, and then trusting. You also mentioned trust too. I heard you say that it's so important to trust. And I like how you shared your morning practice, and even the fact that you've been journaling too. These are all, I hope I'm just pulling them out so that, because there's so many different ways we can do this. And this way is one that's working for you. The key is sometimes I feel like for people along the path, there are all these different things we know we could be doing, but then the mind informs us, I could do this and I could do this. Maybe that's better. At the end of the day, just commit to something. Even if it's one thing, just choose one thing and stick with it for maybe even a week. Let's start with a week, and then well, I've done it for a week. Let's see what happens if I go for another week, and then maybe stick with it for a month. And then, it's be fluid. If you decide from there you want to shift into something else, but oftentimes the answer even in that will emerge. So the key is just to get started with one practice where you can open yourself to some spaciousness. And it doesn't have to be hours. It could be an extra 10 minutes. It could be an extra 20 minutes, 15 minutes in the morning, an extra 5 minutes,
Yeah, I always love the morning time because I feel like that sets up the vibration of the whole day. And then it just makes for a fun, easy day. Doing something in the morning, some sort of practice.
Yeah, that's so important. Yeah.
Anything else you want to talk about through the week?
Well, I feel like we've covered a lot of points in here. I know one of the other thing I could just mention here is that a lot of participants mentioned that they felt a peacefulness. And I feel like that's worth mentioning too, because there's a peace, like a deep peace when we enter into that unity consciousness, into that place of gratitude, into that place of alignment by starting our day from that gratitude, from that, tending our own inner garden, and just with compassion, with curiosity, with presence, with sincerity and love. and just showing up, focusing on what we want to create. And then when we open ourselves to experiences like these members did too, and being in a collective, because that was the other thing about being in a small group and a collective. Even the two of us doing the show together, it's been a great growth experience for me, working with you and sharing with you. I've learned so much from this experience, and it was just something we both, we were chatting, we felt inspired to do it, and where two or more are gathered, all kinds of things emerge. So it's taking I guess the message I want to leave everyone with today, to kind of bring it into the here and now, like we've been doing and we've intended to do, is just take one small step today that you didn't take yesterday, and commit to that. And the step you take, just sit with it for a moment and ask, does it bring me joy? Does it inspire me? Does it make me feel expansive or hopeful? Does it bring me joy? Is it something I would look forward to doing? Because if it's another thing on your to-do list, or a should, or a have to, it's not in alignment. If it's something that sparks joy and gives you hope, and says, oh, and make it a baby step, so that you can just take that first step. Maybe it's an extra 5 minutes in the morning, and then just honor that promise to yourself, so that you can nourish and nurture that self-trust, and create enough spaciousness and time over the period of a week or 2 weeks, etc., to begin to notice, and then track it. If you feel guided to do it, you might track it by just making a couple of jot notes on your phone or in your journal. I like writing myself, like you're talking about, because it's different than typing on a phone. But start with what feels manageable, so that there's no resistance in the mind of form, pushing back against it, or making up a story about, oh, this is more important. And really nourish that joy, because these are the little inroads to peace. Because the peace is in finally keeping our promises to ourselves. Because really, in truth, one of the things that has become ever present for me is, this is, outside of all of the noise, the distractions, the hoopla, the soul growth, why did I come here? Because it has, at times felt like, oh my God, OMG, this is a lot. This is a lot, right? So why would I have chosen this? Like, why? There's a question, right? And it's like, for me, it's to be loved. So what actually is that in action? What can I do every single day, starting with how I wake up in the morning, to really take steps towards that every other aspect of me can get on board with and believe, and that perfection that we sometimes talk about, oh, I missed today or that, it's just to notice what you're noticing. And that perfection in the undistorted sense, in the divine sense, is about compassion, divine compassion for the fact that you're in a process of remembering who you really are. So, yeah.
Joy, doing something you enjoy is so, so important. I've even put more importance on it again.
I love that.
Just recently, reviewing all the stuff that I have happening, because I have different projects, different things just in life, like what I really enjoy, and then picking those out and keeping those, and letting some of the other things fall away, because that is what keeps your vibration high. And that's what we need to be doing during this time, is really keeping our vibration high by things that we enjoy doing. And that what we enjoy is going to be different for each person. It can be very small things. It can be very small things that make us happy. I have to tell you this, because this was, I redid my dining room, and I flooring, and I put like this little plant in there, and something about walking down the hallway and looking into that dining room, that makes me so happy, because it's just like so clean, and I have this plant there that I really like. I mean, so I don't know how long I'm going to feel that way about that specific room, but small things like that, what makes you feel good. So that was just as an example that I think most people might be able to say, oh, it's just some of the small things too. To say, oh, wow, it makes me feel good.
Yeah. I love that you shared that. There's, look, my mom had a Post-it note up on the kitchen cabinet, and it was actually her family doctor who reminded her to write this down on a Post-it note. That was her prescription. Look for the good stuff.
I love it.
and so I remember being at home and seeing these Post-it notes around the house. Look for the good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So,
oh, there's one other thing I have too. In my garage, my boys play sports. So sometimes the moms will make these, the big fat heads. You know what I'm talking about? When they take their face and blow them up, and then you have your son's face. Well, so I took one of those from last year, and I have it right in my garage. So every time I pull in, I see his big smiling face. And I love it because it's kind of silly, but it makes me smile. So there's all sorts of things that I do.
yeah, it's like even in teaching, I have a gratitude folder, like, and it's an envelope that has all the little things over the years, a Christmas card, a note from a student, a little drawing that I just put in there. So if I'm having a particularly, a day where I'm feeling out of alignment, or I'm going into maybe a sense of stress or overwhelm or something like that, I will pull out that envelope and just randomly pull something out of it and say, okay, what do you have for me today? Just to reframe things and shift and just perspective take, because I feel like for a lot of us right now too, in this world of form, again, it goes back to what are we choosing to focus on, what's pulling at our attention, and sometimes things do pull at our attention that, even if we think we know better or whatever, they just do, and it's okay, and so how do we get ourselves unfurled from that and not go down too many rabbit holes? And when I say not go down too many rabbit holes, the other day when I was crying, that wasn't a rabbit hole. That was, and I actually, that's a discernment. It wasn't a rabbit hole. It was, it could have been a rabbit hole if I had identified with the emotions as being all the totality of all that I am. But when I just realized it was an aspect of myself that was needing to purge and release, then I could have more compassion for that part of me having that experience. And I could just be patient and trust that something beautiful was emerging through that, like calling it fertilizer for the soul, right? Watering the soul. So some new flowers can grow in it, So, yeah.
So I would like to help people have if they're not having the mystical experiences, or would like to have the experiences of sending healing intentions to people, just with the power of 8. It's not like you have to be a trained healer or know how to do this. We can help you just with the power of intention. I'd like to get that set up sometime. I think people would enjoy that.
Yes, and we've got some helpful resources too, to share with people who are interested in linking arms and participating in that. So again, at this point, I guess Meet the Light is the platform. Do we have the link for that, Jennifer? That
For the forum?
For the forum?
Yeah, I think I'll build a landing page for that, and maybe we can post it underneath these videos in the YouTube.
Okay.
That way, if people are interested, they can sign up to reach out to us as we kind of get this together.
Yeah, this is very grassroots, organic. It's been something that's been emerging in us through linking arms and joining together. That's why we're being really transparent and authentic with all of you, because we started tinkering away on it this week and seeing what was emerging. And now we're just letting you know that this is something that, having been reading the book and sharing our what stood out for us in the book, the natural next step that is emerging for us to share with you is to invite you to step forward if you'd like to be part of a community of people who would like to. We're looking to form a Power of 8 group, and we'll guide you through the process. And we're also welcoming people who would like to be recipients of the Power of 8 groups. That will come out after we have the the 8 people come forward. And it's just to let you know, this is what's cooking right now over here. This is what's where we're heading next as we continue to talk about the power of 8. So whether you're watching this live or on the replay, you can comment below, and once we have the link for the landing page, we'll put that out there. And in the meantime, you're always welcome to. What's the email address again for Meet the Light? You guys have an email address, right?
Yes, it's well. They can. You can go to the website meetthelight.com, where the email address is meetthelight43@gmail.com. And this will be all virtual. So if people want to participate in a Power of 8 healing circle, or if you have someone who wants to be the Healy, someone that we're sending intentions to, check out the website. We'll post the landing page. If you want to be a part of the Power of 8 circle, then it's just virtual. So you just Zoom. Zoom is very easy and it's free to use. So that way anyone can participate that would like to.
Yeah, sounds great. And yeah, just keep tracking with us. Thank you so much for watching live or on the replay. We really appreciate your interest, your curiosity, and we're here for you because we know that together we're better. And it's just such a blessing and a pleasure to be able to participate and grow together and expand together.
Yes, thank you very much. And we will see you next week as we review the next chapter, which is chapter 11. And that title is Group Revision. So another exciting chat. See you next week.
Thanks, everyone.